I knew I wanted to be in real estate and I knew I wanted to own my own businesses and have control over my life. And as soon as I turned 18, I got my real estate license. I started selling real estate. I started investing in real estate assets, adding value to them, building out a rental portfolio while I went to engineering school in college. I got a full ride scholarship since I didn't have a college fund.
Hello, hello, hello. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Radio Show. Interesting calling it a radio, but it's a YouTube show. But anyway, I got used to that. And we used to be on terrestrial radio for a long time. But with technology, we're now going YouTube. A very special guest today. Her name is Hammond. And the reason she's on this program is my friend, Joe Polish, who is also Hannah's friend. Joe Polish is one of the great teachers here in Phoenix. He teaches, parental marketing, and he's a genius at what he does. So Joe called me up and says, "You got to meet Hannah." Hannah, welcome to the Rich Dad Show.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's a dream to be here.
Well, thank you. But and you're under 30 in your age. Is that correct? I'm not going to get the exact one.
Yep. Yeah, I'm 28.
Okay, good. So how did you make your money at your age? That's the question.
Well, I read your book when I was 13 years old. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. My dad worked at a pawn shop making minimum wage. He still works at that pawn shop in the ghetto in Phoenix. And I wanted freedom. And I was willing to pay whatever price I had to pay to get freedom. And your book was a saving grace for me. And it was really a lifeline for me growing up as a child and into my teenage years. And I knew after reading that, the whole concept of financial intelligence and assets versus liabilities and how to truly accomplish freedom where you're not a slave to money, just trading time for money for your whole life and giving all of it away to the government. And I knew I wanted to be in real estate and I knew I wanted to own my own businesses and have control over my life. And as soon as I turned 18, I got my real estate license. I started selling real estate. I started investing in real estate assets, adding value to them, building out a rental portfolio while I went to engineering school in college. I got a full ride scholarship since I didn't have a college fund. And I did go to corporate America because that fear tactic that I had ingrained in me from the public school system. And, I had an engineering job, the best job I could possibly get, getting the most amount of money I could possibly get out of college, was a six-figure salary at 20 years old. But after taxes, 401k, all the stuff and working, my butt off 60 plus hours a week, half of it was gone. And with a 3% increase each year, I knew I was never going to be able to be rich or wealthy or have freedom. And so I ended up quitting and continuing to build my own companies, which led into owning construction companies. And now I own a real estate brokerage, brokering commercial and residential real estate here in Arizona. And I have a national private lending company offering loans to real estate investors for their investments, whether on the commercial or residential side.
More I get to talk to Hannah, I'm going, holy mackerel. And you're driven. You're relentless. On top of that, you went to Arizona State University, correct?
I did.
How'd you finish in that school?
4.0 GPA, summa cum laude in 3.5 years, engineering degree.
And what kind of engineering was it?
I started in computer engineering and then I switched to industrial engineering. So the business economics, removing inefficiencies in businesses and minimizing waste to maximize profits. And then environmental engineering, I had a minor in.
So, man, how was it? How was it growing up then? I mean, if you're in Arizona State, you're the top of your class. Were you studying all the time, or did you have a
Yeah,
life or
I had no
study?
life. Yeah, I actually didn't meet one person on campus at all. Like the whole time I went to college, I didn't. I was that was probably the darkest period of my life. I was extremely depressed. I was alone. I moved out right at 18. Moved out, went on my own, and so I had such a scarcity mindset from my father and my upbringing. I had no plan B. I had to support myself fully for living expenses, food, and everything like that. I had huge dreams, massive insecurities, a horrible eating disorder, and I completely isolated myself from the entire world. I was too insecure to even leave my house. So I only showed up to college for the exams, and I was the first to finish the exam. I was out of there in 20, 30 minutes of, third dimensional calculus. And everybody hated me because I always set the curve way too high for everybody else. And then I left. But yeah, that was it. I was surprised I made it through that period of my life. Yeah, I wasn't happy. But anyway, all I did was study, and that's why I did so well. It wasn't like it was just super easy and I just showed up and I didn't have to apply myself.
Yeah, and I was at the other side of that. I set the curve going down. Like my license plate says 1.9 GPA, and you were what, 4.0?
Yeah.
Anyway, so when we come back, we'll be talking more about what's it like to be a thoroughly modern woman, and most importantly, have want you to share what you want to share with men and women about life and going for the dreams. Because as you know, the gap between the rich and poor is so wide today, and it's getting wider, and that's scary. Well, that's why with the Rich Dad Company, for people who want to get ahead and not be a victim of the economy here. So we come back to Hannah Hammond. Again, thank my friend Joe Polish for introducing me to her. And she is a thoroughly modern young woman. We'll be right back.
Are you worried about your financial security in these unprecedented times? If you are, the next minute could profoundly impact your financial security. Imagine waking up to find the economy has plunged and your portfolio has plummeted 30 to 45%, while banks are in turmoil, holding your money hostage while waiting for FDIC intervention. Where would you turn? For many, this may sound like fiction, but it's a stark reality. For those that have money on the line, recently, America's awoke to both the NASDAQ and the Dow, plummeting over 1,100 points each and triggering a frenzy of sell offs. History shows us how a single event can crash the market, like the dot-com bubble of 1999, the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, and the pandemic of 2020. But today, we're facing multiple bubbles: commercial real estate, stock, bonds, and banks. Combined with the relentless inflation, the threat of global recession, the specters of war, and you have the perfect storm. The consequences could be catastrophic, plunging us into unprecedented crisis. America is sliding in the age of discord, with trust in institutions collapsing and the democratic norms unraveling. The quality of life for Americans has declined. Wealth is concentrated among the rich, while the median American family income stagnates, creating a dangerously top-heavy social pyramid. Moreover, hostile countries like Russia, China, and Iran are working to destroy the U.S. dollar. Gold is a no matter what store of wealth that you need. That's why Robert has been such an advocate of gold, and he trusts Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold is ready to help you incorporate physical gold as part of your portfolio and protect it against economic uncertainty. Visit protectwithrobert.com today to learn how you can qualify for up to $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying investment. Or give them a call at 844-3-ROBERT. Remember to mention Robert and Kim sent you when you contact Allegiance Gold. Secure your IRA or 401k today with Allegiance Gold. Visit protectwithrobert.com or call 844-3-ROBERT.
Hello, welcome back to the Rich Dad Radio Show. Today, our guest is Hannah Hammond, thoroughly modern woman. And again, I want to thank my friend Joe Polish for introducing me to her. He says Hannah is out of this, she's out of this world. I mean, top of her class, she's drop dead gorgeous. She's very, very rich. And we're talking about money and men and sex and power. And one of the things that not Joe Polish, but Rollo Tomasi said was that two kinds of people hate Rollo himself. He says powerful women don't like him, and he said weak men don't like him. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And so as you know, Hannah will attest to, there's a lot of weak men out there, and I've heard it more and more and more that there's fewer men. One of my friends, daughters, uh, married a man with two kids, and then they had two kids, and now she has four kids because a guy left her. And I found more and more women saying men are not as strong anymore. It's not like the John Wayne or the Rambo or men want to be TikTok dancers or whatever's going on there. So, Hannah, have you found out about men? I mean, what message would you give to men out there who are not? I don't know what you call them, wimpy, I guess.
I've been doing a lot of work on myself and learning a lot about trauma and healing and multi-generational trauma and why society is going the way it's going, because it's very, very interesting out there and it's getting worse, in my opinion. And I think men play an absolutely critical role in a child's life, and how that child is raised and develops determines how the next generation is going to be raised and developed. And so, if, speaking from my own personal family experiences, my dad was abandoned by his father and his mother. And my mom was abandoned by her father. And their parents were abandoned by their fathers. And so it's been this multi generational trauma where the fathers have left every single time. And the mother has had to step into roles that they couldn't step into. They had to raise their children, they had to work 3 jobs. They Obviously, the children were traumatized. They didn't have a male role model. They didn't know how to be treated by men, and they didn't, they need a father, especially boys. And studies show that little boys need a strong male father figure role model. Otherwise, it has a very detrimental impact on them. And if, the court systems side with the mothers, because the mothers, you take care of the children, and a lot of the men have multi-generationally left the families or done things that are not acceptable to the families. And so the boys are being raised by women, and they don't have a male figure to know how to be a strong man and a good man. And I think that plays a big role in it. And unless we can really understand that and kind of reconnect to the pain there of the abandonment, and heal, so the trauma doesn't just keep repeating generation after generation, then it's going to continue to be a problem. And women are becoming stronger and men are
Right.
becoming weaker, because women have to step into the role of a man because it continues to happen and they keep getting left. And they, I learned very young that there's no such thing as Prince Charming. And I have hope for a long lasting relationship that's amazing and beautiful, and um all of those things. But I knew from 5, 6 years old that I couldn't rely on somebody else to come save me, and that I was just going to run off and be happily ever after, and life is just going to be dandy. And I think it's an important message for women. It's not to not have trust, or not to not have hope, or not to be in love or be in relationships, because I think I want that personally for myself. But it's, don't put all your eggs in the basket of Prince Charming, swiping you off your feet, because it puts you in a very bad position when you have no control over your life and you have to completely rely on somebody else with their own problems for your one life that you have to live. And I see it all the time. These, women that they stay at home, they have no job, they raise the kids, the man is out sleeping with his assistant and whoever else he wants to sleep with. The woman is absolutely clueless, or even turns a blind eye because she can't do anything. She can't go anywhere. Like, she hasn't ever worked. She has no skills. She's just put all her eggs in the basket of this man, and she has no other option. And it absolutely breaks my heart. And I think those relationships are very unhealthy, because they're not together because of love. They're together because there's no other way out. And, we talk about the price, right? Every decision you make, there's a price to it. And there's a price to being like that type of woman. And there's also a price to being a woman like me, who's independent and strong and all those things, because a lot of men can't handle that side either. A lot of men want a woman that they can have more control over, and to play more of the traditional, motherly female role.
And I think you've been engaged, what, 2.5 times and all that. But what broke it off? I mean, uh,
Oh, the control. It became every single relationship I've been in, Robert, I've been told I love you within 7 days. I have been asked to move in, or, we should move in within a couple weeks, generally 2 weeks. Um, and it just started a business right away. Business is my love language. So it's like, let's start a business. that's control to get me, get a commitment from me type thing.
Well,
Or other.
you and this future ex-partner want to start a business together.
Yeah, right. So start a business together and then everything's amazing. They treat me like a queen. They put me on a pedestal in the beginning and then they propose, the two engagements they proposed within 6 months. And I told them I didn't want to get married in the beginning. But something I struggle with is having self-respect and self-worth and saying no. When they continue to persist and they treat and they're good. They seem like good men in the beginning too. And so I'm like, okay, maybe this is a good person for me. But then as soon as I got engaged both times, I mean, it's like the skeletons came out of the closet. I found out like my first one was a felon. He was a cocaine dealer. He was an addict. I mean, it was like bad, like, strip clubs all the time and just the worst nightmare. It ended up, I found out later he was embezzling money from the company, like so much horror that I had no idea. And then the second one, as soon as we got engaged, he just became so controlling over me. He didn't want me to uh, continue to grow my business. I couldn't post anything on social media. I could have never had a podcast. I couldn't make more money than he made. He was just so insecure and so controlling. I felt like I was literally in a prison. And he suffered from severe anxiety and trauma that he hadn't dealt with, and I wasn't going to just give up my life over that. And then the other one, we went ring shopping and we were building two houses and all the things, but I call him the half fiance because he was still married. He was still going through a divorce. They were separated, but he still technically was not finished with his divorce yet. So, I know how to pick them, or they know how to find me. I don't know, Robert, but I clearly need some help in this arena.
Well, the other thing too is that what Joe Polish was saying, you're so driven. You're always in seminars and all this. And, I'm always teaching seminars. And generally, my audience are men. And to see a beautiful woman like you there studying, that's what Joe was telling me about, is that you're just driven. But that's the trap. So we're running a little bit behind time. I think we got the subject covered, but you're working on a book, right?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
what's the title of the book?
What's that?
What's the title of your book? Working title?
Ugly duckling.
Because that's how you saw yourself.
Yep. Yeah, and I still do, honestly, and I know people always laugh at that or get angry at that, but the reason I put so much effort into keeping up with the standards of beauty is because I am so insecure and because I feel like I'm not enough and I'm not good enough and I never was good enough, and that's just so ingrained in my subconscious that it's a battle for me every day, and it's difficult. So yeah, ugly duckling, it's kind of a story of money, sex, and power, and just how men are getting it seems like men are getting weaker from multi-generational trauma just getting kind of passed on, and then women are being forced to become stronger. And just the struggle between finding a good relationship, as in general, I believe it's a struggle all the way through and through, because my mom, and I know a lot of people who aren't necessarily powerful, independent, extremely beautiful young women, and they still struggle to find a good man too. So it's all the way across the board. But it's as I raise my standards and as I raise my respect for myself and heal myself, then there's a lot less that I will put up with in a relationship, because my life is so good. Like, I'm happy every single day of my life when I'm alone. I want a partner with me, ideally, because that's so important. Relationships are so important, and I love having somebody to build my life with. But I'm not gonna have a partner if they are dragging me down and sucking the life out of me. It's just not worth it. And I'm at the
Right.
point where I hope there's one out there, but you haven't found one yet.
And do you want children?
No,
No. Okay. That's
no,
it.
I don't think I could trust anyone enough to have their child, because Yeah. Yeah, it's I've just, I from my childhood, I'm kind of scarred from marriage and children and things like that because it was just a tough thing for me to see and go through. And just see so many divorces and breakups and problems. I get terrified of getting stuck with uh
Okay.
a child, yeah, a child that I don't have like this innate desire to reproduce. I have an innate desire to have a foundation and teach them rich dad poor dad principles, and have a large impact on hopefully thousands or millions of children versus just my own. But yeah, I think not.
So let me ask this: what do you look for in a man? So all you men, listen up, because mostly men watch the Rich Dad show. What do you look for in a man? What do you find attractive?
So physical attraction is definitely important for me. I've tried to date for, oh, they're not really my type, but they check all these other boxes and it goes downhill fast because I feel like you have to have a very strong physical attraction to somebody. So that's definitely important. So somebody that's, bigger than me, taller than me, stronger than me, things like that. And then the next thing is, similar qualities like driven, right? Always learning, always growing, a successful entrepreneur who didn't necessarily come from anything and knows the price that it takes to work hard and to go through lots of challenges and overcome challenges and just being relentless in that. And the third thing that is the most important thing to me is loyalty and honesty. And I've just been betrayed so many times. And I'm such an honest person, like brutally honest. You could offer
Right.
me $1 billion to try to lie, and I'm not good at it. I just can't do it. And I want that out of somebody. And I'm very forgiving, like extremely forgiving, the stuff that I've put up with and stayed after learning about. But I value honesty over mistakes because we're all human. Like we mess up. I mess up, they mess up. We're not perfect humans. In fact, a lot of humans have done some pretty sick things, and I value the honesty in that. So I never wanted to be that wife that's just a fool that has no idea what's going on from that her husband's doing. I'd rather have dignity and him tell me like I made a mistake or I did this or here's what here's my past. So those are really the key things, and just similar lifestyle choices, similar views on finances, similar views on children, and marriage. And yeah, I think that's about sums it up.
So let's get to the women now. What advice would you have for women who want to get ahead like you, to be a female entrepreneur? And you deal primarily with men because you're in real estate and hard money, and you're not in a foo type of business. So what advice do you have for young women, or women in general, should I say?
Just educate yourself. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Get a grip on financial education and make money for yourself and have your own dreams. And even if you're in a relationship where you are maybe a stay-at-home mom or something, pick up a side hustle. Find something you're passionate about. Learn how to sell. Because if you know how to sell and you have good communication skills and speaking skills, you will always be able to make money for yourself and provide for yourself and your family. And you won't be forced to be trapped into situations that may not be ideal that you otherwise wouldn't have an option to get out of. So I think it's just super important to build those types of skills and be able to have your own independence and your own identity.
So you went to traditional education, excelled there, but now you're going to seminars more and more and more. The reason I bring this up is because my poor dad was always in academic education. His PhD was, to him, there was only one place you could go to school, and that was a university. And my rich dad went to seminars, and I became a guy who liked seminars better than the university. So how do seminars fit into your game plan, should I say?
Yeah. So all the education I will do from this point forward will be non public school system. Like I won't be getting any master's degrees or PhDs or anything like that. It's all seminars, masterminds, conferences, read books, podcasts, YouTube. The education that is out there nowadays is abundant, and most of it is free. Obviously, once you do the masterminds like Genius Network, those things you have to pay to play, and they're well worth their weight in gold, but you work your way up to that. And I think now with Chat GPT, the public school system is going to go down the toilet. I'm already hearing kids, they're like, why do I have to learn this math when Chat GPT can answer it? And I think it may be a good thing, because kids will be able to use these other educational platforms to learn things that actually matter and get started earlier, rather than spending the first 18 years in learning things that really aren't applicable to real life. That's not going to move them forward. So yeah, the seminars, books, podcasts, YouTube, financial intelligence, sales skills, communication skills, speaking skills
So
is.
let's go a plug for Joe Polish here. What did Joe Polish and the Piranha Network and the Genius Network teach you? What did you learn from Joe Polish?
Oh, he changed my life. Genius Network has absolutely changed my life. Well, first he introduced me to you, and you're my hero. You absolutely changed my whole life, and I attribute you to a lot of my success and freedom. And they talk about being a better human, and it's like it's not just about how do we make more money, right? Because once you learn how to make money, then you have that skill set and you can make money. But then it's about, how do I truly be free in all areas of my life? How do I be happy? How do I be connected? How do I have significance and make an impact, and heal and serve my generation and future generations? And it's just more about connection to yourself and to other people, rather than just let's just make more money, right? And
Right.
so yeah, that's the biggest thing for me from Genius Network.
Another thing about Joe is that he had his own challenges to overcome, didn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah, and he's so transparent about the struggles with addiction, and a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with addiction. I definitely struggle with very addictive personality. My biggest addiction has been work, and food. I have struggled with just using food to numb out, or workaholic to numb out. But there's been periods of times where I've done drugs. There's been periods of times where I've smoked weed every single day. There's been times where, just go to men to numb out, like all of the things to not feel the feelings that are deep down, which aren't comfortable. But now, because of Joe, I am doing all the work and learning how to reconnect to the pain that I've just shoved down for so many years. And in order to heal myself, because that's how you heal, is you have to reconnect and you have to process those feelings that you never processed before, and really be able to live in the present moment, and not just be always living in my logical brain and grabbing onto things to keep me disconnected from the present moment.
Yeah. One thing I love about Joe Polishman, he's a leader in Phoenix here. Great teacher, but he is focused primarily on giving back and being a good human being. So too many people have this idea that, we're just in it for the money. That is not true. But anyway, Hannah, it's a pleasure. Keep working on your book there, and you be the new role model for young women as far as inspiring young men to be better men. So
Thank
Hannah,
you.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Robert.
Thank you. And we'll be right back for the final word from me. We'll be right back. Thank you. My final word is this, that what is more important than education? Not much. Yet I was just in Hawaii, where I grew up, and a lot of my friends there, they're successful, they're rich, but they're not worldly. I mean, they had not heard about BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and they're not aware of the U.S. economy or the U.S. printing trillions of dollars. So Rich Dad stands for financial education, and it's really interesting to be working with Joe Polish with one of his students, Hannah Hammond, but she's becoming this powerful young new woman out there in the world. And I think that's what we need more of. We need more strong women as well as strong men. So thank you for watching The Rich Dad Show.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.